suffered his worst fortnight. He's faced every criticism over COVID measures and the ever-growing number of parties revealed to have been held in Downing Street and other government departments at a time when the rest of the country was under tight restrictions.
Well, not to mention losing a Conservative safe seat in last week's North Shropshire by-election. So, has he lost control of the pandemic and his own party? Joining us now from South London is Conservative commentator Alex Deane, who doesn't think so. And from North London, we're joined by journalist and broadcaster Nina Myskow, who says yes. Good morning to both of you. Alex, let's come to you first. I mean, that's quite a list, isn't it, of things that have happened, negative headlines that he's had over the last few weeks. It couldn't get much worse for him, really, some would say.
Well, I'm happy to take them one by one, if you like, and I hope you'll be fair rather than just presenting one position. I think they are doing good things during this pandemic, and the first thing they're doing is vaccinating us at a rate of knots. And I think that if that wasn't happening, you'd be rightly criticising the government. So given that it is, they deserve credit for it. But secondly, my view on the lockdowns that some people keep urging government to put in place is that government has to have a choice there, and sometimes not doing something is the right thing to do, especially when the something would be bad. It's clear that lockdowns are economically punishing, and for everything from children to mental health to the lonely and the abused during lockdowns, lockdowns can be disastrous. So when government doesn't do something, and everyone in the media pillories them for it, sometimes they're doing the right thing. Lockdowns now would be the politically easy thing to do, but it would be the wrong thing to do, and therefore I support and applaud the government. You're
looking at the government as an the overview, aren't you, of the government? But if we're talking about Boris Johnson and him personally and the things that he is responsible for, and when we look at what has happened, there are the accusations that he was in charge when he allowed all these gatherings to take place in Downing Street. He was in charge when North Shropshire by-election was lost to the Conservatives. The Owen Paterson sleaze scandal. It's just one thing after another. He had the rebellion in the vote from MPs when they were trying to get the restrictions through. There is a long list of things, and he is at the head and is supposed to be in control of all this.
That's definitely the narrative that some people seem to like, but governments tend to lose by-elections. Margaret Thatcher would ask, how low in the polls is the party mid-parliament? And no matter how low, she'd always go on to say, not low enough. We've got to carry on doing things, and government loses by-elections from time to time, and without being flippant about it, that's how it is. On the parties that you like to recite, I can't help but notice that Keir Starmer having a few beers with his colleagues doesn't make the list, nor does Andy Burnham singing some karaoke with Angela Rayner and the journalist who broke all these stories. It seems almost too convenient, A, that the same group of people are producing in a coordinated fashion these stories, and B, not being subject to the same kind of criticism you're offering to the government.
I'm not saying any parties are good enough, but, all I'm suggesting is that if you're setting the rules, if you're a party in government, then you should be abiding by them.
And the point I was seeking to make is that whilst it's plainly unattractive and these things have not been dealt with well in comms terms, it's a coordinated attack on the Prime Minister in the end. And those who just trot out the list in the way that some people do, Charlotte, are complicit in that attack and not being inquisitive or asking, why are these stories coming out and why are they coming out now in this time and where are they coming from? It's plainly a coordinated attack by people who don't like the Prime Minister. Now, do I claim that it's been dealt with well? No. It's been dealt with badly in PR terms, but do I think the government's doing a good job in the end? Yes, I do.
Let's hear from Nina. Nina Myskow, it's a coordinated attack, and actually he's not losing control. Your thoughts?
Quite rightly, it's a coordinated attack. It's a coordinated attack not only by his own backbenchers, but by the public, who are absolutely sick to the back teeth of the hypocrisy. Talking about the wine and cheese and in the back garden, all this list of parties when people were dying, people were unable to see their relatives, unable to have funerals. I mean, I notice in that photograph you've got there, say maybe socially distanced, who is that woman beside Boris Johnson? I assume it's Carrie, his then fiancée, his wife. Dominic Raab has gone on television saying, it's been very formal, people are in suits. What's his wife doing there? His wife, as I understand it, is not yet an elected member of his government. And Boris Johnson, you ask, has he lost control? You're talking about a man who's had difficulty controlling his trousers, never mind his hair, never mind his party. The list, and I am going to list it because it deserves to be listed. You go right back to the beginning of the pandemic. too late to lock down. The PPE scandal, the contracts for mates, the fraud, Owen Patterson. Nobody's mentioned Afghanistan. He and Dominic Raab both have blood on their hands. He doesn't deal with people enough. Dominic Raab should have been out, demoted. Instead, he was, because of the disaster of Afghanistan, instead he's been promoted. He's now Deputy Prime Minister, for heaven's sake. In the Matt Hancock situation, he allowed that to go on. He didn't sack him immediately. This is a man who has no control over his party. And you saw that in the vote with the rebellions, the rebels. 98 people voted against him from his own party. It's, you know, this is just ridiculous. But most of all, it's the people of this country who have been betrayed, who are subjected on a weekly basis to absolute hypocrisy, this entitlement. One rule for him, one rule for everybody else. This is a man who has no empathy. This is a man who caught COVID, and we're supposed to have sympathy. He caught COVID by his own complete flouting of the rules, taking up a hospital bed for somebody else. So, you know, where is there something that we should see as positive?
Yeah. Alex, I mean, you know, it is a long list, and we can't deny that. We all saw the pictures. Someone like Boris Johnson refusing to wear a mask in hospitals and on public transport. At the very beginning of the pandemic, proudly saying he's been shaking hands with people. I mean, he sets the tone. It's leadership, and it's no surprise as a result of that some of his staff think, well, it's OK to have cheese and wine parties, to have a party at Conservative Party HQ, because our very own leader has got a complete disregard for the pandemic and the rules. Real responsibility has to come from the top, doesn't it, Alex?
I get that you think this is the opportunity to have a go at and potentially even bring down a Prime Minister, and I understand the excitement that some people have about
Alex, I'm not going to let you do that. I don't care about whether he's about him, Boris Johnson. I'm talking on behalf of people like myself who lost people during this pandemic. Over 140,000 people. I lost 3 relatives. So don't say to me I'm trying to be political. Well, there are people out there thinking, why? Why is he able to have cheese and wine in his garden? And there are some people who weren't able to see their loved ones. So this isn't just about politics. Please think about those people too, Alex.
Oh, forgive me, if you're going to make it personal, Adil, you should probably know things about the people you're making
he's allowed to make it personal. Alex, he is allowed to make it personal. You know, people have died. People have lost relatives, and if you can't make it personal, that's completely not respecting what he's saying. He is allowed to say that. I have fortunately not lost anybody. Have you lost anybody, Adil?
Yes, I have.
Alex, have you lost anybody?
I think this is an extraordinary way to approach this debate.
No, it's not. Because this is what real people feel. Real people feel this. Real people are very angry, and you have no right to disrespect him by saying that he shouldn't mention it.
OK, Nina, I appreciate that, but let's just see what Alex got to say. Alex, come on.
How nice that you appreciate it. Christmas last was my father's last Christmas, if you must know. And I don't know what right you have to demand as if there's some kind of points to be scored. He didn't get to see his mates for the last year of his life. Do I deeply regret that? Yes. Do I think the way you behave right now, abusing people and demanding they rent them their garments and show their wounds, and they only have a position in a debate if they've lost somebody?
You're accusing me of abusing people? How am I abusing people?
You're doing it right. You were doing it right now. You're doing it right now and saying, unless you've got a body to show, you've got no position in this debate. Let's try and raise the tone.
I'm not abusing you. I am merely putting the position of the hundreds of thousands of people in this country who have been bereaved, who are mourning people, who are facing a Christmas for the first time without their relative, who have not been able to...
I'm doing that too, so I hope I've answered your point. And I can
so
now
therefore
pass
you should have more empathy.
Go back and
I would
respond to
hope
what
you would have more empathy with other people.
Nina, can we let Alex speak on this? And Alex, just to say, you know, we are sorry about your father to do with this. And let's sort of, you know, have a look at where we move from this. And I know you've got something that you want to say, so, yeah, carry on.
Well, the first thing I was going to respond to was Adil's point suggesting it wasn't political from you or from the channel. The trouble is you're going to have to decide whether you're an impartial arena in which people air their views one-on-one or in a fair debate. debate, or if you're in an arena in which, before somebody comes on air, the hosts tweet jokes about people getting drunk at work and therefore their cheese and wine parties are things that are going to be disruptive to the workplace, and demonstrate that, in fact, you've got a position of your own. I'd suggest you'd be better off not having a position of your own and having a fair debate. And if we're going to have a fair debate, what I would say is this: you've got to be pragmatic. You're not weighing up the perfect against the bad. You're weighing up a scenario in which it's quite sweet. If you think things aren't going smoothly, anyone who thinks that a Tory leadership contest is the better outcome, I think is whistling Dixie. But I think a leadership contest in the Tory party right now would be a disaster. So do I pretend that things are perfect and smooth in Downing Street? No. Of course, we're going through a pandemic. I don't think any government is doing everything smoothly or perfectly. But and I'm not some Tory stooge, Charlotte, either, by the way. I thought the last days of Theresa May, it was like watching Weekend at Bernie's, but it was going on for months rather than a weekend. So we've seen bad leadership and we've seen bad situations, but this isn't anything like that, and it's not on that kind of scale. In the end, there ain't going to be a leadership contest.
Alex, look, you've had plenty of airtime on here, and I'm quite able and allowed to have a thought and an opinion on here, but the fact that you are being invited on this show tells it that we are being impartial. We've created a debate, and you are here representing the Conservative voice. But one thing I would say, this division and these attacks on Boris Johnson aren't coming from or just outside the party. The reason why we're talking about it's coming from within the party. We are seeing a rebellion. There are 100 MPs who are rebelling against the Prime Minister right now. That's why we're discussing it. It's coming from within the party. We saw the WhatsApp group. We saw the WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group, led by Steve Baker, has said enough is enough. So that would tell you, wouldn't it, there is a problem within the party that gives us a right outside the party to talk about it.
Yeah, plainly there is some internal dissent. And in fact, it's quite healthy after you lose something like a by-election to examine yourself and decide whether you're on the right course. But Tory MPs are going to go back to their constituencies over Christmas, and they're going to be told by many of their voters to get behind the Prime Minister. And they're certainly going to be told by a number of their associations not to rock the boat anymore. And it just doesn't feel anything like the same momentum or level of criticism of the leadership that we saw, whether it be way back to Ian Duncan Smith, which I remember well, or Theresa May much more recently. So yes, there is some disquiet, and internal debate is healthy, but I don't think it's anything like the kind of level that you would need to have to get to a kind of leadership contest scenario that just ain't going to happen.
All right. We'll leave it there. Nina Myskow, thank you very much. And Alex Deane, thank you. And Alex, again, we're very sorry for your loss as well over the last year. Thanks for joining us.
And we will be speaking